Hey everyone, welcome back to the realm. I'm Gina.
Rich again.
I'm Rob still.
I'm Amy.
And I'm the unicorn, Kez.
Woo!
Unicorns here. The rarely seen but always welcome Kez the unicorn here to grace us tonight. Brian is sick, so we wish him and Danny the best. Hopefully by the time this airs, they'll be totally fine. But that's why he's not here tonight. Jenny was traveling all week, so I'm sure she's probably tired. So we are going to talk to you tonight about another one of the places that we visited when we were in Ireland and Scotland on our trip. So that's pretty much what this season, we're season 7. We do the spring season, we do a fall season. So the spring season, we are focusing mostly on our trip, going to bring to you all the great places that we visited, how cool it was, history-wise, anything that we could find out as far as if it had a haunted history. But all of these places definitely have a unique history. That's something like we don't just focus on actual just hauntings on the show. We talk about all the things that are weird and interesting that we like to bring to you guys. So we definitely will bring some information about the locations that we've been to. We went to some really cool places, and we'll be taking turns telling those stories. So last week's episode, we talked about our time at the Ross Castle in County Meath. We had the amazing opportunity to stay at a haunted castle, a noted haunted castle, for an entire weekend, and we had our equipment set up. We are going through evidence right now, and I can tell you we are catching a lot of audio. Impressive audio, I feel like, too. Like things that we can't explain, things that we going back and forth. We're checking them across 8 cameras. We're checking them across 6 or 7 different recorders, just so that we can make sure that we're ruling out everything else that it possibly could be. So we're really excited. At the end of this season, we will have our evidence reel, and we're going to do like a Ross Castle part 2 and just basically an overall evidence review with you all. We'll do an episode on that, and you'll be able to hear all of the things that we've been hearing. So with that, after we saw that castle, we went to, I'll let Kez mention they want to add a little blurb about that, but we drove to an area where there was an ancient burial ground. I didn't get to walk up to that one because I had a broken toe, but what was the name of that place? Do you guys remember?
The
Kez,
Lock Crew Karens.
can you say that one more time?
Oh,
Lock Crew Karens.
Lock Crew Karens. I stayed down below, took pictures of the scenery.
that was a wise choice.
Talk to the sheep. But you guys walked a bit up a hill. I don't know if you want to talk about it and tell everybody about that really briefly.
Not brief about that walk.
Was it long?
It was also uphill the whole way.
It was uphill both
Coming
ways.
back
It
down.
was pretty much. It's
Biggest
like
hill, and then you got
somehow-
up to that hill, and then there was another secret hill above that hill.
I told Kez at one point, I said, if we get to the next one, there's another hill, I'm going back. I can't do another
and it
one.
was muddy and it was windy, and I did not have hiking shoes on. It was pretty interesting, but it was worth a walk. That's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, definitely.
So what was at the end of that walk? I don't think I've ever even heard like what you guys saw whenever you were there.
A pile of rocks.
Oh, so was it similar to clavicairns that we'll be talking about later?
It had an opening to it, and on the inside there was a couple stone slabs that had like hieroglyphics, had some stuff carved into it, and were a couple other stones that actually had like symbols and whatnot carved into it, probably writing. I don't remember. I know I took some pictures of it. So I mean that stuff was ancient.
What year was that? Were those burial grounds built in?
So I actually did a little bit of research on that because I was going to talk about that too.
Oh, well then we can wait.
Sweet.
No, just
Go for it.
now. So, yeah, it was the Lock Crew Karens. It was built over 5,000 years ago, so even before the pyramids, I guess, which is pretty cool. It's from the Neolithic period. I had to Google a lot of words when I was researching all this stuff, and I realized how dumb I feel. Because it would be plain English on all these websites, like, this is what's going on here, da 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 da. And I'm like Googling every other word because I'm like, what does this mean? That you're just talking about it like we should know what this is. But yeah, so basically the lock crew Karens, they're spread over 4 of the highest hilltops in County Meath.
And you guys climbed them, suckers. Just kidding.
We climbed up one. We climbed up the most famous, I guess, the biggest one, the most visited of them. And so, in a very like basic retelling of the story, it was the legend is, or the Irish folklore is, that there is an ancient hag goddess known as Kailach. can't I can't speak or I can't pronounce things very well, but I tried. Anyway, so she jumped from hilltop to hilltop carrying these stones in her apron, and dropping a few on each hill. Ultimately, on the last one, the one that we visited, she tripped, broke her neck, and that's one of the most famous of the Karens, which was Karen T. And that's the one that we climbed up on. But it was beautiful. It had an incredible view, 360 view of the land around it, 360 view of Ireland, really. Um, yeah, just imagining the work that had to be put in to get those stones to the top of that hill, when everybody was whining just climbing it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wild, absolutely wild. But it was gorgeous, and yeah, I guess you used to be able to go in it a little bit, but because of structural integrity, they barred that thing off. But it was not only a burial ground, but it was also, it seemed to be a place where they did ceremonies or different kind of spiritual um, rituals, and yeah, it just has a lot of history that they're still kind of uncovering there with all that.
I'm going to share a picture here really quickly. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have the benefit of seeing this. If you're listening to us on audio, we'll try to post some pictures and links to the show notes, but for sure, go check out the YouTube version of this. Let me share my screen really quickly. I know I'm not doing it as quick as I could.
It's also pretty cool. So the openings of it were created so that the light would shine in perfectly during the equinoxes, which is pretty cool. And that seems to be kind of like a common theme across most of the ancient structures that we saw, was the importance of the equinoxes to the culture back then.
So is this where you guys were at here?
That looks like it. Yep.
The one to the fourth one over from the top, that was next to the the one like below it. You had like the mound of rocks, and then, oh no, yeah, if you go down to that second row of pictures, the one on the very far left, that one right there, yep, that's it, because that has both of them in the same picture. Yeah, that right
So
there.
Amy,
Yep.
there were stones
Yep.
standing up. You didn't try to go through those stones too?
No. I don't even know if I saw those stones. I was in and out of consciousness by the time I got up here. I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, I'm not sure if I even.
We were distracted by the dogs, because that's when the dogs
Yeah,
we were talking to the
that's
dogs that
true.
were up there. So
I mean, yeah, it was a tough walk because it's straight up a hill the entire time. But
Jeez.
I would say like 15 minutes, even when you're stopping and breathing a little bit.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, there's some of the things you were talking about.
I feel like Amy's making faces at
I'm
me.
like, it was not 15 minutes.
All I know is Rich and I are a good ways ahead of everybody looking back, and I can see the anger on the faces even in the distance of like, why am I doing this? This is stupid.
No,
But
it was
yes,
cool.
I
It was
think
worth
it was
it.
worth it. Yeah, it's definitely worth it to see.
yes,
Especially just to see even just the view of the countryside around is awesome.
yeah, I would hate to have come home and realized there was something right there that we could have seen and missed it. So,
Yeah.
And that seems to be kind of the theme. So when we were on our way to go do these two different things, well, even before that, when our host came to the castle and was kind of talking to us about the area, I was like, "Have you heard about this? Have you thought about visiting this?" And I was like, "Oh, yep, I'm on that. That's stuff I wanted to see." And she's like, "Good. A lot of people come here and then just don't even go to those, these two places, and they're most incredible around here. It's what we're really proud of, and tourists are not like checking them out. And then the
And
same.
really, there wasn't nobody there, but people that were definitely locals that were there.
Yeah.
So really, we were the only tourists that were there that I saw.
Yeah, and then
Everybody was pulling up with their dogs and going
Yeah.
for walks.
Yeah.
we stopped at that gas station along the way too, and the person said the same thing. She's like, "Oh, I hope that you go check out, the Lock Crew Karens and Fore Abbey." She's like, "They're incredible. Nobody goes out and sees those when they visit." So, and we're like, "Yep, that's where we're going. Don't
We're
worry."
heading right now. Yep. I remember that. Well, yeah, so from the castle we went to the Cairns, and then from there in the same day we went to a place called Fore Abbey, Fore Abbey. And Kez is going to take lead on this tonight, so I'm going to pass the torch over to Kez, and they're going to tell us all about Fore Abbey, and then we can kind of talk about because we kind of spread apart. The campus of this is just enormous, and so we kind of all went our own separate ways. So I'd be really interested in hearing you, Rob. You and Amy went up to the church, right? I think. I'm not sure
That's
who else
correct.
went up there, so everybody can chime in and tell their parts of it. So Kez, the floor is yours.
All right. Just want to give credit. YouTube channel, Just Visit Ireland, Curious Ireland. Tua was a good website for this, and Voices from the Dawn and Mythical Ireland. They're all places that I found this information from. So Fore Abbey, Fore is a small village in County Meath. And the area was associated, this particular area, the Fore Abbey part, was associated with a Saint, oh man, Saint Fehen. Yep, that's what we're gonna go with. And he founded a Christian monastery around 630 AD in that area. And so that area is just like supposed to be really rich with just like religious history. Um, it was believed that before Saint Fehen's death, that around 300 monks had lived in this monastery and over 2,000 students. So we're talking like a bunch of people are in this place, and it's just, I mean, super rich with, like I said, that religious history and just important holy grounds. Um, the structures that we saw there, which I didn't realize, none of them were original structures except for parts of the church, I believe. But the reason for that was it saw a lot of turmoil over the years. In fact, we found out that the abbey itself, the largest part, had been burned and attacked over a dozen times over the years. So yeah, it was just saw a lot of turmoil on top of it being holy grounds. Let's see. It's really well known for having the seven wonders of Fore. Um, Again, so the three structures that we really noticed and saw that were left standing were the abbey itself, that the huge structure, the church, and then the anchorite cell chapel, which I found a lot of interesting stuff about that. So I'll talk about that a little bit more.
And
Yeah, so
sorry to interrupt really quickly. While you're talking, I'm just going to be showing some of the photos that are in our photo drop of our Google Drive of some of the pictures of Fore Abbey. So again, if you're just listening, head on over to our YouTube channel and check it out.
yeah, so the Abbey, with the photo that you have up right now, again, that largest structure that we have there. So what we see now, the remains that are there now, those are actually like created on the same grounds as when it was established in 1630. But those particular ruins there were founded in the 13th century by the de Lacys. And it was actually built on a bog, which is a very incredible feat. Basically, it's very marshy, muddy, sinking area, and for them to be able to put a structure like this on that type of terrain is said to be like one of the seven wonders that this was even possible to do back then. Um, the abbey there is the oldest medieval Benedictine, if I said that right, site in Ireland. And again, it was burnt and attacked over a dozen times, and especially during the 100 Years' War between, I think it was France and England, was often attacked during that time. So the different seven wonders that they talk about, the lintel stone raised by Saint Fehen's, gosh, I want to say that right, prayers. So basically, the church that we saw there has this horizontal support over the doorway. And the story goes that they had, men trying to put this stone in place while they're building the church. They're unable to do it. It's just too heavy. And the story is that Saint Fehen said, "Hey, just go to lunch. Come back a little bit later. We'll try again." And it was said that he was praying, and with his prayers was able to essentially lift this stone up and fix it where it needed to go. So that's one of the wonders.
Is it on this church here?
No, so that the photo you're showing right now is the Anchorite Cell Chapel. That's not the church. So it's the other smaller structure that's up near that area.
Yeah, that's the one that we walked through that was pretty much just walls. Yeah.
Right.
They had
Robin
the
in
cemetery around it.
I say I know
So
those two
since
people.
you got the photo up, I'll talk about that. So that's the Anchorite Cell Chapel. Anchorites, so again, Googling all these words, Anchorites were essentially religious recluses or hermits that lived there, and they basically just devoted their entire lives to prayer and meditation, and they would live in that little tower there their whole lives. So whenever they decided to dedicate themselves to that until they died, that was kind of what they did, and they just dedicated their life to their religion. That particular anchorite cell housed the last anchorite in Ireland, last known anchorite in Ireland. His name was Patrick Beglon, and he died in 1616 from a fall, is what I read. So he fell either climbing down or out of it, and actually broke his neck, which ironically was fulfilling his promise that he would never leave that house alive. So he would die there.
Well,
So it's kind of a big deal. It was later added onto, so it used to just be that little tower, and it was later added onto by the Nugent family.
that's
They
me.
actually also had their roots, big history in the tower or the castle that we stayed at.
Mm-hmm.
So the Nugent family later kind of added on to that and created it into a mausoleum, which is why likely we cannot go in there at this point, because it's also a burial area. Because I noticed that was the one place we couldn't walk around in.
It
Right.
didn't really have any signs on it that gave any information.
I did find that interesting that there wasn't like any information signs other than what Gina's showing literally right there. But I think that there was some sort of audio tour or something that maybe you can get from one of the local shops or something that we drove by. But yeah, otherwise it was just kind of self-guided, figure it out as you go along, Google it if you had the the means
Well, there
to.
was the information signs on everything. It wasn't even easy to get up to that little mausoleum, but that explains why we couldn't get in there.
Yeah. But I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know that that's what an anchorite was, and I didn't know that's what a hermit was, that it was just a religious recluse. I had to Google all of that to figure all that out.
Did
I'm
you see
sorry.
Rich in that last picture?
We don't
Okay,
need to
I
show
went
that
too
picture.
far in the
Yeah,
picture.
we don't need to
I
go back there. What am I doing?
Look at
He's catching flies.
wish I could zoom in on this picture, but it won't let me.
That's a shame.
What people aren't seeing if you're just listening is a picture of everybody falling asleep in the car except for Amy.
Amy was the
She's
only
on
one
her
that
own.
stayed awake.
I
Yes,
wasn't
sending me 1,000.
sleeping. No, I was
She's
singing.
sending me 1,000 reels. That's what she's doing.
Rich is catching flies.
Oh,
No, I
here's
was
the
singing.
thing.
You guys couldn't hear me. I was singing.
Oh yeah, you were singing, all right. And here's
That was-
here's
Yeah,
here's
that
the
was the
other
ending
joke.
of the song.
Well, yeah, that was the
That was-
climax of the song.
That was the big whoa.
Yeah.
But Rob said, and this was my proof. This was going to be like me proving Rob wrong. Rob said, I never slept in the van. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep when it was driving. What are you doing here? I want to know.
Trying to sleep, meditating.
Meditating.
Oh boy. Sorry, I should have looked ahead at the photos before I kept hitting go.
Oh.
At least that's what it was. It was part of the trip and nothing weird.
Yeah.
Nothing
Well, and
weird. Wait, so I did some little bit of research here. It is, according to Google, it is pronounced Saint Fekin.
Every
Fekin.
video that I watched where someone from Ireland was talking about it kept saying Fehen.
I'm just saying. I can't, who
Are
am I
you
to argue
asking
with Google?
Google AI?
Well, it's Google AI. I just typed it in Google and that's how it came up. Usually something will come up where you can push play, and I don't see it because nobody cares.
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I just was watching videos and trying to. It's honestly Gaelic. It seems very difficult to learn and to speak. I mean, even listening to it, it's just like it's tough.
I think it's
So,
beautiful though. I loved seeing
well,
everybody
yeah,
in Gaelic and listening to people pronounce their
yeah. But anyway, so more on the seven wonders of this area. There was an old mill, the remnants of an old mill, what we saw there. And it was what's interesting about this is that it was built where there was no water. But once the mill was built, Saint Fehen essentially like put his staff on the ground and then water bubbled up and started to flow. And so he's like, basically, they built this mill without knowing that there was going to be water there, and then suddenly there was. Um, they have the tree that won't burn is one of the seven wonders. They have the water that doesn't boil. There's essentially two holy wells on the property, and one in which the saint would bathe in and pray. And that became an area where they would immerse sick children, and they were said to come out of these waters and be healed. Um, there was another well on the property, and I think some of us saw it where people were hanging strips of cloth
Yep.
on a I don't if there's a structure there, a tree, I can't remember.
It's the
I think it was a
tree.
tree.
It was a tree.
Yeah.
So essentially, this well would also heal sick people. Um, Toothaches was a big one that it healed. Migraines and headaches was a big thing that people said they'd get healed by this well. And so people would leave torn pieces of cloth from clothing or other things from sick people, and they would hang it near this well
It's
for healing.
actually right here. I think the tree is in the background over here to the left. This is where everybody
Yep.
was hanging the pieces of clothing on,
Mhm. Yep.
because this is the spring right here. So you can see
Yep.
there's coins in the spring as well. Sorry, go ahead, cuz I knew we had a picture of it somewhere. So
No, that's totally fine. Yeah. So, and then the seventh wonder was water that flows uphill. It's an optical illusion that makes it look like the water's flowing uphill. Again, all of these seven wonders come from the times of Saint Fehen, or however Rob said it was pronounced.
Fekin.
Beacon. It sounds
Fekin.
like fecal. I don't like that.
I know, right? That's what I was like, oh, I don't even want to
think-
say that on the show.
I think we were saying Saint Fetchin or Feckin
Yeah.
when we
I
were
think
Fekin
fetching
when we
or
were
whatever.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, one of the oldest, or is the oldest standing medieval monastery left in Ireland, the best preserved. That was one of my, for me, one of my favorite things of going over there was seeing that land and that structure. I was really interested in seeing these abandoned and dilapidated structures with so much history, because again, to wrap your head around how old these structures actually are compared to, again, we're living in America, and our modern structures that aren't from, Native Americans are quite young, less than 300 years old. So these other structures that we're going to that are 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000
Yeah.
years old,
Right.
just so hard to wrap your head around. I did look around to see, if it was reported to be haunted. There wasn't a lot on that, like people telling stories of what they're seeing and things like that. But it is just generally thought to be a haunted area, or just mythical, right? Because of all these magical wonders that happened, being holy ground and things like that. But I would imagine the guy that fell and broke his neck, the hermit, I feel like that could be a possibility. If so much damage and destruction throughout the years, getting burned down as many times as it did, I can imagine that all has a lot of energy attached to that. So we, as far as I know, we haven't gone through that particular part of the evidence yet, but we did walk around with some recorders, at least through the Abbey, and that was really cool. I don't know. And it's one of the structures, because we saw a couple old places and dilapidated, and this was one of the ones we could actually like go in and be in almost every single room. And I don't know, you can't do that always. Sometimes you have to pay to get in. Sometimes things are just walled off because they want to protect the integrity. But so the fact that this was still open and able to be cruised around in was really cool.
Yeah, because there would be, I mean, there was nothing like driving through the highway and just looking off to your right or left and seeing this giant abandoned castle in the middle of the field, and it's like there's no way to get to it. I mean, I didn't even see any like roads leading up to it. It's just right there in the middle of the grass, and just seeing history preserved like that was just
Rob was really good in the back of the car. He was like, "Oh, that's abandoned. Oh, let's go there."
Right? It's because it's like they don't even care. They're like, there's so much of it. There's so much of it everywhere. There were buildings on the side of the road. They were just in the middle of the field. They're like, yeah, it's just another ruins. Let's farm around it.
But to be
They
fair, there was vampires everywhere in those buildings. We're sure of it.
they were
I mean,
perfect dwellings for
yeah,
vampires.
and maybe a couple werewolves. We're not sure, but yeah, some of those buildings.
Because nobody would stop. We were ready to go.
I know.
Yeah. There were a couple, well, okay, but when we're riding, like when it's dark outside on a road that's supposed to be for two cars, but only not even hardly one could fit down it, and you're like, let's stop here, and we're on a curve, like
You couldn't do it during the day. So yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it didn't matter.
yeah, it was pretty tough. Yeah.
It was really tough.
Mm.
Did anybody have any I guess like what was everybody's thoughts when they were walking around there, and experiences and any feelings, and have any of you listened to any of your, like, did any of you take equipment, and if so, did you listen to anything, catch anything?
I honestly am not sure if I brought any equipment in there. I took a lot of pictures, obviously. The To me, when we got out, the Abbey was cool, but I seen the church, St. Fekin's Church, of which I could be saying it completely wrong because I don't trust Google anyways. But the church itself, which I mean, I've actually looked it up and I've seen the sign that was at the church said it was built around, yeah, like the 660s. I just saw something that said 900s, but I'm not going to listen to that because the sign at the site
said 600 something. Yeah.
Yeah, 660s, built by a saint, not just putting the saint's name on it, which was pretty neat. I mean, there was just the four walls. There was they refer to it as a chalice that was put in sometime later, but like literally 100 years later. So this thing's like it's almost 2,000 years old. And what was interesting is because also I wanted to see these graves, right? Because they had to be really old. And I don't really know, but there was the Ward family kind of took it over around the 1800s, because most of the graves are related to the Wards. And I'm thinking these are going to be really, really old graves. And some of them were from the 1980s, the 1990s,
Oh, I remember
this
you saying.
century. Yeah. So, and they still look like really old stones. But when you got up close to it, it's like, died 1984. And you're like, this thing looks like it's like 1,000 years old. Some of the stones were more modern, but I'm not really sure. I never looked into it. I almost feel like they were putting graves on top of graves.
Yeah.
because I mean they must have buried somebody there, and some of these you can't even read. And then there's some very modern stuff, but it was all related to this Ward family. But that was neat because that was, you know, at that time, because I went to there before the Abbey, was the oldest structure I'd ever stood in. And just to be like, and I can touch it without getting in trouble because I'm the person who gets yelled at when I go to the Egyptian exhibits at the museums because I'm touching it. It's 4,000 years old. You know what I mean? I'm touching that. So aliens may have built that, built the pyramids, but nonetheless, I mean, just to be like in that was pretty neat. It was pretty interesting. There were some other stones that were in there, like that looked like they could have been tombstones or markers, but they're just so wore out. It was really neat. And getting up to the mausoleum, I'm not sure they want people up there. Maybe that's why they didn't have signs. The walkway was really difficult, wasn't it, Amy?
It was slippery.
Yeah, and it was like a weird, narrow, rundown path. There were no stones or anything. I don't really think anybody was going up there. We didn't get in any trouble. But I didn't get any feelings there. My feelings were hurt because I wanted to climb certain parts that Kez did, and then I seen the picture. Kez up on that bridge, and I'm like, I got to go back now just to do that. I should have climbed it, but Amy's over there like my mom.
Gina probably would have told me no, but she was not in the room. And then I stood up there and waited for her to get in the room so I could get my picture taken.
Yeah, I came around the corner and I was like, Ken? Oh.
Amy would have yelled at me. And I probably would have been the one that got caught and got in trouble for it or something.
But I don't think anybody was like working there. It doesn't seem like there was like any caretakers.
No,
like,
but it's just there's so many ancient ruins. They just like, they break
ghosts
it.
would have told on you.
Yeah, they're just like it breaks. Well,
I mean, that's the
put up
thing. Like,
another one.
people in the area are obviously they're so proud of that area. They're so proud of Fort Abbey. I mean, again, the couple people that mentioned it when we were there,
Yeah.
it's just it's incredible. You have to go there. It's so cool. Nobody visits it enough. So they want people to go there and see it.
But it's also well maintained because there was no graffiti.
No,
Right.
there was no
Right?
trash. That was the
If
one
that
thing
was
I
in
noticed.
if that was in Wisconsin or Illinois, they would have graffitied the shit out of it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Then turn into a bobblehead
Yeah,
Turn
turned
to
it
a
into
bobblehead.
at that point.
Yeah,
They
I could
really do
imagine.
go off of the honor system, I feel like, in Ireland with a lot of stuff.
They have a
Right.
lot of pride in their country. They have a lot of pride in their belongings, in their buildings, in their structure, in their nature. I mean, there was no litter. There was no. I mean,
We're
it
right.
was,
We also didn't see any police until we got back into like Dublin or Edinburgh.
yeah,
Right. So we didn't. So they obviously were taking care of their own business, right?
yeah, yeah. That's what you said was in the back of Ross Castle. People had some what is that called? Rural farming
Unruly.
justice.
Yes, that's right.
Amy, what about you?
Well, I mean, for me, it was one of the first places we stopped at. So, we're fresh and ready to go. And of course, that's one of the things we really wanted to see was castle ruins and that. And it's just such a weird, I mean, and not like when I got to Urquhart Castle, I'm like, oh, I've already seen it elsewhere. I wasn't like that, but like,
Yeah.
It was the first one. So it was like, you look at every single thing and you're touching it and you're just, it was incredible. It was incredible. I just like to feel that feeling was, it was crazy. It's crazy. And
It's
just
almost
that,
emotional.
yeah, for sure. I'm like emotional right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was very cool.
You
Yeah.
just feel connected to a past that you know existed. You weren't there, but just to know that for thousands of years there's recorded history of people having used that land and walked those same stone, walkways that you were walking in the same field, and it was just very surreal.
Well, and you think like how many people like just did their day-to-day lives and didn't think anything of it. Like, one of those places, wasn't there like I have to look at the pictures, but wasn't there like a fireplace or something up like the upstairs level? And, you think like that was someone's bedroom, that somebody made a fire in that place every day. And it was thousands of years ago. It's just the weirdest, it's just a weird feeling.
I agree.
Essential.
And it also makes me kind of sad of the history that could have been on this land and in this country when, thousands of years ago that we don't know about, that could have been destroyed over time, or when the settlers first came here, what was here that we don't know about, and think about all the native people that lived on this land, like you mentioned, Kaz. And I don't know, it's very emotional. It's emotional to think about. I did feel I was a lot in my feelings at all the places that we went to. And I think you're right, Amy. I think because that being our first one besides the castle, we had just stayed in for the weekend. It was just touching those stones and just, I don't know. It's something you just have to experience. If you're out there listening to us, those of you listening, like if you're ever thinking about taking a trip, don't ever tell yourself you can't. Like, just go and do it. I mean, find some people that you can travel with, make it affordable, and go experience the world, because there's so much out there that will just really change your life. This was a life-changing trip,
It
and
was, and pictures will never like really
never,
capture it. You
never,
really just have to be there.
I was just
never.
saying the other day when I was watching over some of our video evidence and kind of going through that, and I had an existential moment where I was like, wow, I'm never going to be on the inside of that castle ever again.
That's not true.
Are we going to go for a family reunion?
We
Yeah,
I
might
would
as
love it.
well. We're gonna do more stuff.
But it
Love
was
it.
very cool. It was
maybe not that castle, but a different one.
Yeah, we should find another castle to rent.
We'll find another castle.
Rich, what about you? I think that you've gone over your recordings.
Yeah, I would agree with the group, I guess. It was overwhelming, and it was cool because I think it was the first thing that we actually got out and did besides being at the castle. We were at the castle, that was cool. It was really neat. But just pulling up to that place and then getting out and being able to walk to it and walk around it and then walk in it, that was pretty cool. I,
Yeah,
I,
Rich
I
and I
thought that
were
was
like
great.
little kids.
Yeah,
Rich,
oh yeah. I was
we're,
I
we're
was
taking photos through like the little barred windows. We're like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
cool. And all of a sudden, Rich finds a way in and he's like, I'm in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in. That's so cool. We can go in.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then being able to go across the road and up to the church and stuff like that. And I got a voice on because I was recording with my phone the whole time around the Abbey, the walk, and then back over around that graveyard and in that church up there. Um, I got nothing other than I got a voice or something. It sounds like it's swearing at me
Hmm.
right before I start to talk. I put it in our drive for anybody to listen to if you want to listen to it. I mean, I don't think it's me. I was the only one in there, and I don't know why I'd be swearing at myself or whatever. And then go
What did it
from
say?
said fuck something is what it sound, but I don't know because of how I start talking. I don't know how I don't know how I could divide that up that good. I'm not that good of a speaker. There's no way I could do that.
Kind
So
of ventriloquist.
yeah, and I was the only one in there besides Kez, which was they came in after the fact, because I had walked in and started coming back out before I saw Kez. Um, so I was the only one up there. But other than that, I got nothing substantial at all. I was hoping I'd get something asking questions around some of those graves, but I didn't hear anything. And I did a little like EVP type session around the backside of the Abbey area, and I didn't get anything with that, but it was pretty cool. I thought it was neat. It was a good way to continue that next day because first we went to the Karens and did that which was a little unexpected. But I got my steps in the whole time I was there. So
Yeah, for sure.
I get to redeem my points for some sort of dollar figure. So that was good. I got definitely there was definitely not a lack of exercise anywhere we went really. So
Oh,
it
no.
it was cool.
Well, I know um I have to finish. I have my recorder. I also did my phone, and I think we had a recorder as well. And I had the K2, didn't get any hits on the K2, but the feeling when you're in the center of the Abbey, because you're kind of seeing structurally how it was laid out, you know, like the different rooms and so forth, because there's a second and third story that you can see all the way up this castle. And it's open air on the inside because it's been destroyed. But just the feeling inside of there was just, you know, kind of like how Amy was talking about and getting emotional. Like it was the same thing. It was just like you just imagine this whole other world and lifetime taking place around you, and you're just trying to imagine it, and you can almost hear the sounds and smell the smells. It just was just so surreal to be there. But I know that what struck me is the amount of lore that is tied to this land, to that land. Like Kaz talking about the seven wonders of Fore. I mean, water that doesn't boil, water that goes uphill, you know, people feeling like they were healed from that water. All in all, I think that this was if you're over to that area, it's about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. Oh, do we have a guest joining us, Amy? Do you have a puppy in your hand?
Yes, a barky.
Oh, hi, baby. See, this is
hi.
worth it. You guys should come to our YouTube channel regardless, because we
Yeah.
always have pets showing
Yeah.
up.
She's
Always.
very naughty.
Oh,
Very naughty.
the little tiny potato dog.
Yeah, she's naughty.
Okay, so we will post links and pictures to the show notes. So hopefully, like if you ever make it over there, like I said, about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes out of Dublin. There's so many great things that you can see. Definitely look up, do your research before you go. We did a ton of research before we traveled over there so that we made sure we knew where we wanted to go, the must-see places, and we really tried to fit it in, which we're definitely going to talk about on this same day after we finished up with Fore Abbey and the Loch Cairns. We went to the Cliffs of Moher, which we finished driving all the way out on the west coast of Ireland, and we went to the cliffs, which was a beautiful, amazing experience when we were over there. So that wasn't a haunted portion of the trip, but it was a very breathtaking, very cool. I know, Rob, you said you had never seen the ocean before, and so that was your first look at the ocean, was at the cliffs. So that was really cool. But if there's any information that you want, if you have any questions on any of the places that we went to and you want more information on it, you want to travel there yourselves, you need any tips, please feel free to reach out to us, connectedrealm@gmail.com. That's connectedrealm@gmail.com. If there's places you'd like to see us go visit, let us know. We'd love to put some things on our map of places to go and see. If there's any topics you'd like to see us cover, again, get a hold of us. We do have people that send us requests for things, so we do enjoy when we get those. If you're new to joining us, check out our previous episodes and other seasons. We have a whole rest of the season where we're going to talk about the rest of our trip and all the things that we got to see. And then make sure you listen to our Weird News on Wednesdays. Next up after this, we're going to be talking about what's next? Oh, next episode is going to be
Next is
Rob. What is it going to be, Rob?
Loch Ness.
Loch Ness. So Rob's going to lead us on an
Yay.
adventure of Loch Ness. We're hoping to have a special guest, so we'll get back to you on that. If not for that episode, then definitely we'll be hopefully having our friend on soon, but somebody that lives in the area over there that is a Nessie expert. So until then, check out our other episodes. Thanks for joining us. We hope you learned a little bit today about a very cool place in Ireland. And we love y'all. Thanks for listening. And with that, peace out, everybody. Ciao.
Bye, people.
Of course.